You're talking about cutting taxes on individual rates, which is, of course, what everybody wants you to do. But then you've got some people in the caucus that say, well, if you're going to cut taxes that much, we need revenue somewhere, right? I mean, Speaker Ryan did not mention that border adjustment tax at all yesterday, even though, of course, we know he championed it in the past. But Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan had real opinions about this yesterday. He joined us yesterday, Congressman. I want you to hear what he had to say about this whole fight on taxes. It doesn't sound like it's going to be easy. Here's Jim Jordan.
This idea that it's going to be revenue neutral, we're opposed to that. Many of us conservatives, we think that's just a fancy way of saying that the tax burden stays the same. We're all for tax reform and lowering the tax burden on families and creating a tax code that's conducive to economic growth. But we don't want this border adjustment tax, which is a whole new tax put on the American economy. We don't want that in the plan. So show us the plan, then we'll pass the budget if we're actually achieving the savings we need to and putting together the right kind of tax plan.
Not on the same page, huh, Congressman?
Well, I think that what you're doing is working out some of those finishing details. Revenue neutral. People want tax reform to be a net positive, not only to their personal economy, but to the nation's economy. And as Mick Mulvaney said yesterday, sometimes you're going to see that the deficit will tick up, or the CBO's estimates on the deficit are going to tick up, because you're going to lead to growth in revenue and economic growth. It'd be great to have a GDP growth at 3.5%. And then that is going to give you more revenues. And, you know, CBO gets these numbers wrong a lot of times, and you all know how they do. They don't utilize the dynamic scoring, and they don't take into consideration that a change in policy is going to lead to a change in action, which leads to a change in revenue.
Right. Congressman, my fear is that this reform can be revenue neutral, but that could not happen. And tax could end up just like the health care bill did, reforming social welfare programs or eliminating the vast deductions. Every year we have $1.5 trillion of deductions. But these are politically very difficult. So we have the most backward tax system in the developed world. There's massive incentives to take profits offshore, keep them there, inversions, et cetera.
Well, they want that $5 trillion back.
We want the $5 trillion back, and there's such a clear incentive to small businesses that are the ones that pay the tax.
Well, she knows that.
That's right.
So my question then, Congressman, is if you can't get it through reconciliation, is there any chance that Mitch McConnell will consider basically nuking the nuke? Which means that you don't get it through reconciliation, but you ram it through just kind of on the similar lines that we did with the Supreme Court.
You want to see that?
You know, I got to tell you, I would love to see the nuclear option used for health care and for tax reform so that we can move on to things like infrastructure, broadband expansion, some of the items that the American people want to see done. And I think that it may be time to declare the nuclear option and say, let's get the wheels turning. Let's get the economy back on track.
Congresswoman, Steve Bannon suggested raising the tax rate up to perhaps 40% for the top personal income tax bracket. Would you support a tax reform package that kept the top personal rate stable or increased it?
I would rather see that rate come down, because you're going to see more growth and innovation, and if you do that, we all know that the formula, less regulation, less litigation, less taxation, leads to more innovation and job creation. And if you have some of those top income earners and they are looking for the opportunity to do innovation and new starts, that is jobs growth. And that is where people are going to be able to increase their wages, because there's more competition for that labor. And you all know that cycle very well. So the lower the rates on those marginal rates, the better it is. I do think doing the marginal rates sooner rather than later has the benefit of allowing families to go in there and reset that withholding and to take home more of that paycheck, which means they're going to be spending that for kids, for schools, for activities, for meals out, for consumer goods. And that has an impact. Those consumer economics count.
So is that going to get any traction? The Bannon comment about the highest rate staying all the way up there to 40%, is that going to gain any traction, do you think? I know you're not for it, but what about your colleagues?
I'm not sure you're going to see a lot of people for that. That may have the popularity of the bat tax.
Okay, all right. Congressman, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Good to see you.
I think that was
Bye-bye.
your best joke ever, Congressman Marsha Blackburn. Good to see you. Have a great day.